Well, hey everybody. I think I'm going to get this started since it's two after the hour. My name is Via Williams, and I'm with my lovely co-host Sarita Dua. We are here most Wednesdays, well, every Wednesday really, at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, doing something we call Power Playbooks, which is really that. It's designed for real estate teams who are running big businesses or aspire to run them. And we tend to deep dive with some of the best operators in the nation on specific topics that they do well. Anything you want to add to that, Sarita?
No, I just want to make sure everyone knows that this is your session and get engaged. Post questions. I'll be monitoring the chat. Whether you're a single agent, aspiring team leader, or have a full-fledged team, you're going to get something out of today's session. I'm super excited.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'm
right.
just here to bring the purple lights.
You don't you worry, my friend. You're about to get an incredible intro because I'm proud of Jay White. Like literally every day, I talk about Jay White almost every day. When you talk about a team operator who just said, look, I'm doing this. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to blow it up and do it big. And I'm going to lean in and I'm going to follow playbooks and models and systems. That's Jay White. I can't wait to get into his story. He's in Charlotte, North Carolina. We will give you his contact info because you're going to probably want to know how to get him and send him referrals and all of that. And Jay, I don't know. Part of this might be something you send out to people because I know you get reached out to a lot, and maybe this will help alleviate some of that one-on-one time for you too. I know that you're starting to get some traction with people knowing your story, and your phone's probably blowing up. Is that happening?
It happens, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I thank you so much for being here. I'd love you to start with kind of catching us up until sort of fall of 2021. Could you just kind of catch us up with your team and give us a background and, kind of let us know
Yeah.
what happened leading up to what I would say the start of this story is?
Yeah. So the beginning, right? You and I talk about it, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And the beginning of our story was my dad and I kind of had a father-son real estate team. We were doing pretty well. My brother ended up joining forces. We built a little team and we tried to go bigger a couple of times and just kept bumping our heads against the wall and just finally got tired of it. Some family stuff happened with my daughter, some medical stuff. And I was doing all these other things. I was coaching with a national coaching company. I was running a productivity coaching program in a local office, like all this stuff. And it really just kind of became really clear, like I need to go run my real estate team at a really high level and quit with all the other stuff. So that's where the focus really got changed in 2018. But I couldn't figure out how to do it. Mark and I were banging our heads against, and you talked to him too. We were just banging our heads against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't get past a certain number. Like we were doing anywhere from 900 to like 1.2 million between 2015 or 16 and like 2021, and just couldn't come up with the answers on our own, obviously.
Well, yeah. And you and I have talked a lot about this, it's kind of bumping up at that million mark, which isn't a bad number. Like that's a really high number, but it's like, I remember you telling me we would have bad years and do 900. We'd have great years and do 1.2, but it was still always hovering around that million. What was your agent count pretty consistent during that period of time between say 2015 and 2021?
Yes and no. So like we'd gotten up to like 6 or 8 agents at one time. We might have gotten to 9 or 10. I don't really those are the PTSD years that I try don't remember them
Oh, I understand.
all the way. But we had, we were in this conundrum where I would come out of personal production. I was doing 50 or 60 deals myself. And my personal production would drop off as we would hire so that I could focus on trying to get those agents into production. And you look up 90 days later, your production has fallen off. Theirs hasn't gained traction yet. And everybody had to stop doing what they were doing. They left the team and I had to get back into personal production because I need the income.
Mm-hmm.
Or they did take off and then they leave you because they're like, cool, we've learned everything there is to learn. We'll see you later. And so we were stuck in that cycle, either one or the other. And there wasn't a whole lot of in between. Christina, was really the only agent that has been with us most of the, not the whole time, but the longest. She's been with us 8.5 years. And she was the one that goes, no, I'm in the fox. Like she said it yesterday about something like, I'm in the foxhole. I'm here.
I'm here.
And so, if it wasn't for her, we probably would have been an individual agent back again at one point or another.
So I'm curious, when you say you were doing 40, 50 transactions yourself, what percentage of the total was that? If you had to just in aggregate blend it over a 5-year period, what was a typical year?
My brother was primarily running our property management company when he was
Okay.
getting that off the ground. I was doing about 50 to 60 deals, and Christina was doing about 20 to 30 deals out of our 90 to 120 deals.
Okay.
So really, I was probably 80% of it, and she was probably another 10 to 15% of it. And then
I didn't ask your
sprinkled in stuff.
Yeah, I didn't ask your permission for this next question, so hopefully it's okay. How were you paying yourself back then?
So I paid myself a salary. And
so you were giving all of that GCI, all of that commission you're putting into the team, and then you were just pulling out a salary.
Yeah, and then I would take some distributions.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. I asked that question because I knew the answer, and everybody, I would say 90% of people pay themselves that way. Right. And
the cool part is I learned to live on that money.
Yeah.
And so as we started making more money, I didn't necessarily need more money.
Yeah, that is cool. That's actually a really good perspective to look at.
Because as we've started growing, I've been able to put a lot more back into the team.
Yeah. Yeah, the challenge, right. The challenge with that is that you're supplementing the team with your personal commission, and you can't get out of that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I wanted to highlight that, because it's relying on 40 to 50 commissions going into the team. You pull out a small portion of that, as GCI. On frothy month, you can pull out some, owner draw. But for the most part, you're supplementing your team with your production, and it is a vicious cycle that's hard to get out of for a lot of people. Yeah.
And we're taught to do that for tax purposes. And so we think it's the right thing to do. And it actually hurts us personally in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's a structural,
good and a bad, right?
Yeah, that's a structural thing. I mean, you could pull out, spoiler alert, Jay and Vija both have the same belief, so does Sarita, which is that the owner operator should be paying themselves the same split as their agents. Until you do that, you cannot replace yourself. And that'll click with some people a little later. It'll hit them a little later. They'll go, oh, I know what she means. But basically, you become another agent on your team that way. Then it just becomes a simple mathematical equation about how many Jay needed to replace himself with 50 transactions.
I just need to replace 50 transactions, right?
Yeah. But while he's supplementing the team, it's a different economic, right, model that way. All right. So Jay, we're, that's all happening. What do you think, from a mindset perspective, what was happening in 2021? Because the market was really good in 2020. It was really strong. What made you get to a point where you're like, I need to change the way I do things, and I'm ready to change the way I do things?
I remember I'm in a mastermind group that meets quarterly. During COVID, we had to meet virtually. And our first meeting back in person was in Phoenix in March of 2021. And it was the first time we really got together in a long time. And I remember telling Ben, I felt really vulnerable.
That's Ben Kinney.
Yeah. So I felt really vulnerable when I looked 10 years out. And he kind of laughed, and I was like, why are you laughing at me? He goes, because it's a really smart comment. And not very many people are making it right now because the market was so good. And I said, when I look at our market and look at, back then Zillow was buying homes, Open Door, OfferPad, all the hedge funds were here in our market. Every day I get calls on all my rental properties going, hey, would you sell it? And some of them are wholesale, some of them are retail, some of them are literally headhunting for the hedge funds. And so I just said, hey, look, I think that there's going to be two types of realtors that stay. And this was even before the lawsuit stuff with NAR and buyer commissions and all of that. I think there's going to be two types of agents that make it. It's the ones that do, a handful of deals a year with people that they know. And there's going to be big teams. And there's not going to be a whole lot in between, because the big teams have some strength in economies of scale and size and market share and things like that. And the little people are operating on such a small monthly nut that they can survive. But I felt like I was firmly in the middle and didn't see, I didn't see a way forward within the next decade that was going to change.
That's fascinating. What do you think? I guess it's a different conversation for a different time, but that is interesting that it hit you then, when we were all just so busy, we couldn't see straight and, selling a lot of houses. So I
was burned out. That was part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like totally. I'm sitting here going, I want to be a business owner. I'm tired of it's not that I hate real estate. It's not that I don't like people. It's that I don't want to have a job the rest of my life. I want to own a business.
I can see that. Now that I can see. So you did make a change, and then, in our case, you joined Place, and I don't think I want to say that as I don't want this to be a walking, talking commercial necessarily, but I do think it's important to share that, because that was a substantive change, right?
That helped me flip the switch.
Yeah, that helped you change your playbooks is the only reason I mention it. So you did that, and that's really where, in my opinion, where our story truly begins, which is when you joined Place, and what was it, September of 21?
Yeah, we launched September 21.
Okay. So walk us through what you told the team, what the plan was, and
so it's funny because I get a lot of credit for this, and it happened by accident in a way, right? It wasn't our intention to doing it that way. So our director of operations went out on maternity leave, and literally the week we were supposed to launch, the week before we were supposed to launch, she's like, "Hey, I'm not coming back," and I'm like, "Cool. So what do we do now?" And got on the phone with leadership, and they're like, "Hey, who do you have? Can we split this job role up? Like, what does that look like?" So we were able to kind of go, here's what we're going to do. We have the people, we can shift around some responsibilities. We can give them some raises for the additional work that they're taking on. It's better for us on the P&L. And then all of a sudden we've gotten rid of a pretty big salary that we probably hadn't earned the right for in the first place. And so we launched September 1, and my conversation with the operations staff was really pretty easy at that point, because they didn't know what they were doing, and I didn't know what I was doing. So they would have questions, and the first week or so they would come and ask me, "How do you want to do this?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know how we did this. So let's just assume that none of us knew how we do this. Why don't you get on the phone and call Bellingham? Because they seem to figure things out better than we do." If you've ever been to Bellingham, it's a city of 85,000 people, and they sell 400 houses a year at the Ben Kinney team in Bellingham. And I'm like, well, if they can figure out how to sell 400 there, we could surely figure out how to sell 400 in a market of 2 million people. So why don't we just do whatever Bellingham does? And so I gave our operations team, the people to call in Bellingham. Like, if it's a sales question, call Jolene. If it's an operations question, call Olivia. If it's a transaction question, call Tessa. Like, those are your people now. Quit coming to me. And by the way, you have 90 days to rebuild this. By the end of the year, it needs to be working, because I'm going to start recruiting to this model. Because I'd already started recruiting, and they're like, hold up. Like, I'm breaking stuff faster than they can fix it.
Right.
So I agreed. And I said, well, if you're asking me to hold up, because the only way that it works is we grow. So if you're asking me to hold up, then I'm going to give you 90 days. And so by the end of the year, you whatever you need to do has to be done by December 31st, because I'm going to start recruiting as hard as I can recruit.
One thing I've never asked you on that, what was your conversation like with your current agents when you told them you were going to recruit?
Well, I only had 4. So it wasn't a real hard conversation. No, truly, it was, hey, listen, if we all want to get where we want to go, like, is it easier to sell a house It's easier to sit at a listing appointment if we've already sold houses in that neighborhood, right? By having really awesome people in our world gets bigger and more powerful. And so all of us are better than any of us. And if we can have, like, as long as we're not dumbing down the team by going in recruiting a bunch of empty suits, then we're all going to win here. And everybody was totally on board. And it's going to open up bigger opportunities for the people who have been here longer and perform better also.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's a super smart approach. I love that. So
Can I have a quick observation?
Yeah, of course.
Before I cut you? I'm listening to you, Jay, and you know I love you, but I'm trying to figure out if you were crazy or brilliant, because I think there's equal parts of both, right? Like, ignorance is bliss. You kind of knew you had to grow, and you're like, we're doing it. And I love that, maybe you didn't even know exactly what it involved.
No,
like,
it was not
like,
calculated. Yeah, it was instinctual, but it wasn't calculated.
Yeah, I love it. I just wanted to make the observation. Go ahead, Vija.
So I'm curious, what did you do leading up to January 1st to prepare to recruit? Like, did you have a plan? Did you know how to recruit? How did that start?
So we built out a really solid new agent recruiting process, like built the funnels, built the process. And we actually had to go back pretty quickly because I was hiring people that I saw the promise in, but then when they got there, they're like, oh, this really was the work you were talking about. Or like, I could see the upside on everybody, but I couldn't see the downside necessarily on some of them. And so she's now our director of operations, but she was onboarding these people. And she's like, dude, you got to stop. Like, you're going to break some stuff if you don't slow down. So we rebuilt our recruiting process, and it's now a 5-step process. Nobody's we're not shortcutting anything. Cause I could talk you into joining our team. As a new agent, I'm relatively influential. I can be persuasive. And if we personality wise, we're getting along, I can generally influence your decision right now. But that wasn't always the best decision for you or for us. And so I had to learn to slow the process down, get other people involved so that there was different perspectives and different conversations happening around the actual work, and not just, do I like each other and do I think you can do this? And so we rebuilt that. And by really February, we were clicking.
When you say clicking, I mean, let's give him a spoiler alert. You really did recruit about 2 a month, right? How many gross recruits did you do in 2022?
We grossed 30 and netted 24, 20,
okay.
21. Yeah.
21 net. That's really, really strong. Was it about 2 a month, or were there kind of some uneven months? Like, did you front load it at all?
No, you know what? That's a good question. I don't think we've ever talked about that before. There was some ebb and flow to it because, again, I would bring people in and then we'd have to kind of get them in production, but the cycles were happening faster. It wasn't taking 90 days. It was taking 2 to 3 weeks to get them kind of plugged into our new systems.
Okay. So there's 2 things I want to drill down on that part of it. One of them is the agent attraction, meaning you have to have a certain amount of leads. The second is, I'd like to get into what your process looked like,
Sure.
up front. And then I want to move into what I would call your back end process, which is what you ended up calling pre-launch. You didn't know it at the time, but you ended up calling it pre-launch and whatever, because I want to start with top of funnel. So How were you getting leads? Were you prospecting? Was it marketing? Was it digital? What did that look like?
I don't know how you would classify it. So what we did, I recognized that I could pay, I think it was $100 to sponsor a pre-licensing class at a real estate school here in town. And then we did that a couple of times, and I was like, cool. I got like 1 or 2 people to give me their contact information and like wanted to have a conversation. I was like, we need some bait. We need a reason to get people to give us their information. So we started giving away a $50 gift card. And for a $50 gift card, you have to register to get it. And I get all your contact information. And now I can control whether I follow up with you or not. So we went from getting 2 or 3 to getting 30 or 40.
Hmm.
right? Out of a class of 50 or 60 people. And
Right.
so we were costing ourselves about $150 a class, and we were going to about 2 to 3 classes a month.
And
So
that's all new agents, though.
that
That's
was
all
all
brand
new
new.
agents. That's all we really focused on at
Okay.
first.
Okay.
Because I knew it was easier to recruit them right away. I knew it would take longer to get them into production, but I knew I could get the needle moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so what we were doing, Adelina Rotar is a friend and partner of ours. And so she had this thing that she was doing called the Chick-fil-A call. And because what I was doing is I was spending 30 minutes or an hour with each one of these people. And it was like all I was doing. And she started talking about the Chick-fil-A call. So we stole the Chick-fil-A call from Adelina. So that's our first phase now of recruiting. Is our first step is we do a 15-minute pre-screening call where we're trying to find out by asking them some questions. Are they humble, hungry, smart, and enthusiastic?
Mm-hmm.
And if they check the boxes, then we want to meet with them in person.
Why is it called the Chick-fil-A call?
I think she stole it from Chick-fil-A. I think she had a family member or a friend that worked there, and that's what they used for pre-screening calls. So that's what we did.
That's awesome. Because I do a 15-minute screening, but I'm like, I don't know why it would be called the Chick-fil-A call. That's funny.
It was the specific questions that they asked. And I was like, well,
okay, got you.
Chick-fil-A does a really good job of hiring. So we just said, we'll just yank it from them.
Are you open to sharing those questions with us?
Yeah, I can send them to you.
If you guys email us at powerplaybooks@place.com, we'll get those to you.
Yeah. And then so after that, it's our one-on-one. So we do an invitation to sit down with us in the office, meet a lot of our agents and staff. So we do, the power walk and then sit down with them and talk about, their goals, but to a very small degree.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm a little bit different than a lot of people. I've got a bunch of new agents that we were recruiting at the time. And so, where I had been told, spend a lot of time getting into what their goals are. Like, I really don't care what your goals are because you really don't know what this looks like. This is your pre-licensing, right? So we spend a lot of time talking about what it looks like to get into business quick and focusing on getting that first check in, 45 to 60 days. That was our target, because if I can get you paid in 45 to 60 days, then I've just extended your runway.
100%, 1000%.
That's what our total goal was.
Wait, I want to stop you right there though, before we move on. How did you track? Tell me more about that. How were you tracking that? What did that look like, tracking that first closing?
Oh, so it was just part of we were tracking that manually, like going, hey, where do you have a lead in the first? Well, and we can talk about that when we talk about our pre-launch stuff.
All right.
But
all right.
So our second step was the one-on-one. Our third step became sitting down with Amanda, who at that point was doing our onboarding. Now she's our director of operations. So she's sitting down with them and literally going line by line through what became our onboarding or pre-launch, and then the agent launch program at Place. So like, this is what our expectations are for the work. And what was happening with her is, if they came through those first two with me, they pretty much knew what was going on. And there was very little that she had to flush out, but there still were some things where, hey, she would come back to me and go, hey, I don't think this person's going to do the work. Hey, I don't think this person's going to be a good fit. Hey, I don't think, whatever that might look like. So we laughingly say, I'm the gas pedal and she's the brake. Right. After that, she invites them, and we're setting these appointments up on the back end of our previous appointment. So on the Chick-fil-A call, I'm setting up my one-on-one. At the end of my one-on-one, I'm setting up, like, I'm walking them down the hall and setting up their operations meeting. At the end of the operations meeting, she's inviting them to sit down with me and go through our expectations conversation. We call it our promises conversation. They're making promises. That's what partners do, right? I'm making promises to them, and I need them to make promises to me. And let's get really clear on this. And then after that, we would extend them a job offer, an offer, independent contractor agreement.
do you have any either data or guesses on metrics on KPIs? So how many contacts to how many screen calls, how many screen calls to how many one-on-ones, and so on?
It was 20 to 1.
20 to 1, 20 conversation, 20 phone calls, or
I had
20.
400 and something screening calls that year.
Okay. Okay.
And we hired
So
30.
20 to 1 screening calls to hire. Do you have
Just
any
about.
idea how many leads to screening calls, Jay?
Oh, no, I
But
don't.
probably most of it, like, 80% of your leads you got on the phone.
No,
No?
I'm guessing probably half, maybe 60%.
Okay. Okay. So you might have needed to generate, like,
Because they weren't, because they were signing up for the gift card.
got it.
They didn't all necessarily want to talk to me. Some of them might had plans or whatever. So some of
Maybe
them,
career nights and all that. So you might have had to have 900 leads, 1,000 leads to
yeah.
get your 30 gross recruit, which is a
Mhm.
really solid number. That's a super solid number. Okay. That's, what's interesting about that number, it's an internet lead conversion number.
Yeah, totally.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So, and it's funny because I've talked to people about this and they're like, well, we're not allowed to sponsor real estate schools or whatever. And my response to that is what we're getting ready to do in 2024, which is instead of paying to sponsor the real estate school, I'm literally going to show up at the real estate school at the time they're taking classes and hand out a postcard.
Okay. Got it.
So I still think we can generate leads without actually going and sponsoring the classes.
Did you move into prospecting for some experienced agents after you kind of started that initial flow of new agents?
You know what happened organically is we were getting these new agents paid very quickly, and it got noticed in the marketplace. And so what happened was we had gone from proactively recruiting to now we have a talent magnet coming in, and we were able, like, people were literally knocking on our door going, hey, we see what's going on here. We're talking to your agents and we'd like to be on your team. And we don't know if they're a good fit or not. So we say, hey, we go through the recruiting process. But we didn't have to go find them and didn't have to spend as much time or money on that next cadre of agents, which we have named or nicknamed broken wing agents, right? So they're the agents who that are in the market.
That nickname I struggle with, but okay.
I get it, but they're not where they want to be.
Right.
Right. And so they have the potential to fly. They just need to be fixed.
So a broken wing agent is a lower producing agent who you think, or we all think, sometimes could do better on a team with structure. So some agents thrive on teams, and what Jay's saying is we have a couple different personas. We have about 5 personas that we break up the agent population into at place, and it goes from new agent to broken wing would be the second tier, which is just for a variety of reasons, a low producing agent. Could be new, could be not new, could be part-time, who knows.
Yeah, and
they're actually my favorite too, Jay. I like those.
It's funny because a lot of times they're coachable.
Mm-hmm.
Where we've had the rising stars, which is the next cadre that shows up for us. We've had them come on board or meet with us, and like they think they have all the answers because they've had 6 months of success.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. So you moved into that because of your productivity systems, which we'll get to in a minute. But I just kind of want to keep this arc going of the recruiting story, and then we'll go back to that. So first year, okay, you went from a team of 4 to net what then?
We went from 4 to 22 in 12 months.
Of the 4 agents that were there, I think based on what you said earlier, did only one stay? Is that what I got? Or
no, everybody stayed. But she had been with us through a lot of through a lot of years. The rest of them had been with us less than 6 months.
Okay.
When we joined the place. Okay. Or when we launched with place, I should say.
So going from a team of 4 to 22, 99% of anybody I know who runs a team, their team would implode and die. It would break everything and they would implode and die. I know you had the place systems, and we're going to get into agent productivity. What I want to ask you about is you personally, you the operator, because you did something most agents can't do. That kind of growth in 1 year, Jay, is so rare. It's very rare. It's hard for me to find another case study. And that is because you are in production. You're running the business as a CEO. You're the chief recruiter. Really the chief coach. I know there's people helping, but you're kind of the chief coach, and you're trying to do it all. We call that the messy middle, when you have 4 or 5 different jobs. So can you just kind of share anything you want to about getting through that period of time? How long was it critical? Like, was it 3 months of hell? Was it 6 months of hell? 9 months, a year? Is it still hell? Like, I kind of just want to really break that
It's
down.
still hell, just hell changes.
All right. All right.
Right. Like, it's different than what it was.
Okay.
You know, for me as an operator, I'm having a lot more time with my family because my hours are way more 9 to 5-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not showing property at nights on the weekends all the time. You know, I'm not having to field offers on properties all the time. So, I mean, I'm still doing transactions. Like, I think this year I'm going to close 13.
Okay. Like 1 a month,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably a little bit low, but my focus has been more on the team this year. I think I closed, I don't even know. I think I closed 21 or 22 last year.
All right, but I want you to go back there though, because I know that there had to have been some months when this was all starting. Like, how long was it really insane? Be honest.
I don't know, because I don't think like that. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny about it. Like, I just don't.
It's okay.
I don't care what it looks like to people. I don't care. Like, it's always going to be messy. It's just like
What
Ben says this.
What if they want to, if they all have people listening have a team of 5?
Yeah.
5, 6, 8, and they want to go to 20, 25, 30 in a year. Okay. What can they expect to go through? That's what I'm trying to understand.
I think if you have some things set up right, that it's not insanely crazy.
Okay.
Right? Like, from an operation, like, our transactions have always been really solid.
Mm-hmm.
Our, the biggest challenges we have are, we went from 4 or 5 of us being very relationship based to having 20 that are way more prospecting based. So, like, that was kind of the messiness of, we have to teach things that we weren't really good at. And so, and getting them to buy into doing those things and then even now, that's still a challenge. Just the consistency has become the challenge.
Okay. Got it. So, so that year in 2022, when you went from 4 to whatever that 22, whatever that was, how many homes did you sell that year?
So last year, 183.
100, but how many homes did you, Jay White, sell?
I think 20.
So you went from about 50 to 20 that year. How was your income? Was there a period of time during the crossover, if you will?
I just got asked that. I know where you're going with this. I did not go backwards in income.
Oh, ever. That's great. That's great. So your net income, so your personal production tapered at the rate that your team net income was going up, and you were able to just finesse it. That's fantastic. And
it was a calculated bet, right? Like, I had a conversation with my wife and I said, listen, if this doesn't go the way I think it's going to go, we have plenty of money in savings. You have a great salary. We can afford for me to be unplugged from my personal business for a year, because I believe this is what I need to do.
That's great. That's fantastic. Staying on recruiting, and then we're going to step into productivity systems, because that's integral to this conversation. Let's talk about this year, 23, just as far as recruiting. What has been your recruiting pace, and what's your agent count today?
So we're 25 today. Okay. We've had some turnover, and we've had to grow out of some, as the market changed. Some people weren't willing to do the work. And so, we have had a little bit of turnover. So we haven't grown net all that much. We also, and I spent a lot of time talking with some people this year. This year was spent around really helping and coming alongside agents who have been in the business less than 2 years that don't know what's going on with this market. So I spent this year really focused on retention and not growth, but that's put us in a place where 2024 is getting ready to blow up for us.
So what are you going to recruit? What's your recruiting goal in
We're going to
2020?
double in size this year and double in size again next year.
So you're going to do 2 a month, keep doing 2 a month, or you're going to go.
We're going to be 100 agents and 1,000 transactions in 3 years.
Okay, so you're going to do. Is that going to be a continued pace of 2 a month? You're going to go to 3 or 4 months?
I think we do 2 a month this year and then probably 4 a month next year.
Okay, got it. Okay, very, very helpful. Thank you for that. So let's go into, I think, the elephant in the room, which is, and if people listening are not thinking about this, then anyone who's had a team who's listening to this is thinking about this, which is, what does your onboarding and launch look like? How are you, A, getting them a deal in 45 or 60 days, B, doing that plus all the recruiting, plus retention and all of the things that this entails. And now you have a bigger staff, you have a bigger, everything gets bigger, right? So can you kind of walk us through what your pre-launch and launch looks like and what your ongoing productivity is?
Let's be clear, it was a lot easier to do that in 2022 than it is in 2023.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, it was a lot easier last year than it was this year.
Yeah.
What we basically decided, and frankly, because of the market, we're actually looking at making some tweaks to it. But it's, for 2 years, has really been the same for us. So Monday, everybody starts on a Monday. So week 1, everybody starts on a Monday. It's kind of like your normal orientation day at any job. Mm-hmm. It's paperwork and filling out, like there's some prerequisite stuff that we ask them to have ready and done. But it's going through that, getting Wi-Fi is all set up. Here's your email, making sure you can log into that. Here's the printer. Here's the bathroom. Don't unlock this door, that kind of stuff. Right. And then Monday afternoon, they sit down with one of our senior agents and they watch a video of, I believe it's Ben Kinney, talking about circle prospecting, or talking about prospecting in general and why we do it. And then, so we introduce them to circle prospecting, where they pick a neighborhood that they're comfortable talking about. They know a little bit about it. They know the shopping and dining around it. They know where the hospitals are or medical offices or whatever. So they're comfortable with that neighborhood. And then we show them how to circle prospect around a just listed or just sold home and prep them for their 1,000 dial day, which is that's Tuesday. So once they get done they're going to practice the script a couple of times Monday afternoon. Hey, have a great night. Come back tomorrow, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It's going to be a big day. And so Tuesday, they're doing 1,000 dial day. Okay.
So you give them Mojo for that.
Yep.
And you give them a database. You have a source to get the data on the database, because I'm just preempting, someone's going to ask. How does that come up in recruiting before we move on? How does it come up that they're going to have 1,000 dial day?
It's line itemed in our operations meeting, where they sit down with Amanda and she goes, this is what week 1 looks like. This is what week 2 looks like. This is what week 3 looks like. That's their meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay. So keep going.
Yeah. So Tuesday's 1,000 dial day, and their job is to make 1,000 dials. And their job is to not only make 1,000 dials, but to actually try to get some results in the 1,000 dials. And so what we tell them is, most of our agents find at least 1 appointment and 2 to 3 really good leads in that day. Mm-hmm. And so they're not going through it. They're not going through it just to make the accomplishment of the dials. They're actually going through it expecting business, right? And so we make it a big deal. We're checking in with them. Even the agents that aren't in the office that day are, in our team's chat, they're like, hey, what number's Vija at right now? Like, is she at 200? Is she at 300? Is she at 400? So it's like this whole day, that this building crescendo. We order lunch in just for them. When they set an appointment, we ring a big bell. Like, it's a great day. Like, it's a cool, there's a lot of energy around it.
Yeah.
And so we have had people that it took all day, right? Like they stay at the office. Somebody's got to stay at the office with them, whether it's another agent, whether it's
Oh,
me,
really?
whether it's Amanda, somebody's, yeah, they are not the last person to leave the office that day.
Oh, wow. That's
So anyway, that's Tuesday. And then we tell them to go home.
Yeah.
Right? Go home. If we call it the dog catching the car, if they set an appointment, one of our agents is going on the appointment with you, whether it's me, whether it's Christina, whether it's Mark, somebody is actually handling that business for you, and you're getting a ride along, and it's not going to cost you any money. You're going to get whatever you would have made if you were the only agent on the deal. We're not taking anything from you. We call it the dog catching the car. Like if you catch the car, we'll figure it out.
I love that. Love that.
And it gives them the confidence that if they do set an appointment, it's okay. Right? Because the next thing is if I do set an appointment, I don't know what to do. Like that's people freaking out.
I love that.
So Wednesday morning, they come in, we expose them to Brivity for the first time. So
that's the CRM, everybody. That's our CRM. Yep.
Our tech platform. So we're having them enter the leads, move them over from Mojo or from wherever they were taking notes to our tech platform, showing them how to set them up on market reports or listing alerts or whatever, how to put the information in, how to set them up on an auto plan. Like we're coaching them through that. Once they've done that, then we start with their sphere. And Amanda has already at that point downloaded them into Brivity. And so this is a list of at least 200 people that they know with at least one way to contact them.
So they show up, to be clear, on day one with 200 of their database that your people manually put in, but they're supplying the names, just to be clear.
Yeah, correct. So we're asking them to fill out a template spreadsheet before they start with us. You cannot start with us until you have it. Like we've had one person that we've allowed because he was transferring in and had a reputation. He had been in the business 10 years and he knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. So he knew he had to prospect. So we basically just, instead of pivoting and going to Sphere, we just prospected for 3 days.
Got it.
So they're doing Sphere all day Wednesday afternoon, all day Thursday. On Friday, they shadow one of our agents. So they're circle prospecting around an open house. They're door knocking. They're helping put the signs out. And then over the weekend, they're shadowing 2 open houses. So that's their week 1. And then for week 2, we take these days that were vertically stacked days and turn them over and show them every day should have a little bit of prospecting, a little bit of Sphere, and a little bit of follow-up. And then on Monday, it's finding an open house. On Tuesday, it's this around an open house. On Wednesday, it's this around an open house. So it's getting them more in the habits, the daily rhythms of a top performing agent. Mm-hmm. And so that we do that from that day until they start with our Place Launch program.
Yeah. And just for everyone, we won't go into too much detail, but our Place Launch program is 90 days and it's on Zoom. It's 2 to 3 days a week, depending. And we have a new agent track and then we have an experienced agent track. And the only reason I do want to mention that is for those of you who aren't with Place, you do need to figure out, some of you are using LMSs. Some people have a dedicated person, but in full disclosure, this kind of growth is either dependent on having a platform like Place or throwing capital at it, which you can do, and hire somebody or somebodies in order to do this.
Yeah, I could not have continued recruiting had I not been able to hand them off.
No, there's no way. Okay, so what level of involvement do you have with them when they're going through the Place Launch? Or you or someone on the team?
Yeah, so on their onboarding, Amanda really owns them until they graduate launch, right? Okay. So she's our director of operations, and then Mark is working with her on that as well, because he's taken over our new agent recruiting for next year. So Mark recruits, and then him and Amanda track, coach, and hold accountable. And so what we were doing back then is I'm getting the launch reports on Friday, and I'm calling Sarita and going, Sarita, great job this week with launch. I got your report. You knocked everything out. Is there anything I can help you with? And then with Via's not as sharp as Sarita. So she didn't do all of the things. And that conversation is, hey, Via, this is not what I expected when we agreed to partner. And it definitely wasn't a part of our expectations and promises conversation. So I need to know what's going on in your world that's causing you not to complete these activities every day.
Ooh, that gives me a pit in my stomach. I don't want that talk from Jay.
And if it's something that we can work on, then awesome. And if it's something we can't work on and you can't get that corrected, then we're just going to have to part ways.
Okay, here's my follow-up question to that. I've been wondering this the whole time. How many people, 0 to 3 months, okay, what percentage do you lose in that period of time?
We've lost 2.
That's it. So pretty much you're at almost 100%. Okay. So your attrition or retention issue, is it attrition or retention challenges that have you at 25, would you say?
It's retention as the market has changed as fast as it changed.
Okay. So, okay, got it. So on the back end, you know, putting him through this launch, you're putting enough pressure on your front end that so far you've been able to keep the majority, at least through launch.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How are you getting your agents, Jay, to lead generate, self-lead generate? What does that look like on your team? Are they coming into the office? Are you doing Zoom gatherings?
So my conversation with them when I'm hiring is, listen, from now until you graduate from launch, you're going to be micromanaged. You're going to be in the office. If you graduate from launch, or when you graduate from launch, you have proven that you know what to do. And so then it's just a matter of me checking in with you. So if you want to work from home more often, that's fine. But if you get off track, we're going to talk about it. Right. And I just had a conversation with somebody this morning and said, hey, man, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. And I know you haven't pinned anything. I'd love for you to come into the office so that I can help you succeed. I'm willing to work with you. I had a conversation with a couple people on our team this week and go, listen, your call numbers are way off from where they were when you were having more success. If it's you don't know what to say, cool, come find me. I'll make some calls with you. If you don't know, if you're scared of it, then cool, can we make one call together? Right? Like it's just finding the missing people right now.
That's fantastic. So do you know your per agent productivity number?
I probably should.
Okay.
I don't know what it is in terms, and the reason I say that is because that number doesn't put food on plates, right? So I care a lot more about each individual agent and what their specific needs are than I do about a metric across all of them.
So what do you track as far as measuring, you know, do you track, is every agent tracking on goal? What are you tracking then?
So we're tracking against their, like I've got some agents that don't have the same individual goal. Like I'm not the primary breadwinner. I want to do this number. Like I've got one agent, I think she sold 8 deals last year for 10 million. Cool.
And she's happy. Yeah.
Like, how do I support you in this? Right. I've got another agent that's a single dad that, man, we've got to figure out how to make this work. Like we've burned the boats. There is no backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a way different coaching conversation when he's off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay. Got it. So fantastic.
I learned that from Jacqueline. Like, yes, I want them all to follow the model, but they all are individuals and all have individual needs.
Yeah, that's Jacqueline Smith, I think you're referring to.
Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that.
My last question, and then I'll, Sarita, I don't know if you have anything. My last question, Jay, is if agents are watching this now, it's November, it's kind of a great time for us to be. I know some people watch it on replay, but that are looking at 2024, and a lot of teams I'm talking to are looking at these kind of numbers, 1, 2, 3 a month. What's the best advice you could give them walking into that? If you went back and had to do it all over again, right? What would you tell them to think, do, see, feel, all of it?
Ben gave me some, so this is just looking at it differently, right? And this is, I think, one of the things that led us to grow as fast as we did, because I stopped focusing on something and started focusing on something else. When we were in the process of joining Place, I had $5 to $8 million agent that I was trying to recruit. And I, at that point, didn't have enough knowledge about Place to have a knowledgeable conversation on why he should join our team. And so Ben was willing to do a Zoom call with him, and I was on it. And after the call was over, he ended up saying, hey, this isn't the right fit for me. And that's cool. But after it was over, I said, Ben, I want to thank you. I know how busy you are. They were getting ready to announce the Goldman Sachs investor round. So like, I know how busy he was, and he took time to do that call for me. And he said, see, that's your problem. And I said, I'm not following. He said, you're worried about going out and finding a listing. And I'm worried about finding $150,000 or $350,000 in GCI by going and finding an agent that can do 20 of them. And I was like, that was kind of the light bulb that went off that goes, okay, if I want to get where I want to go, I need to grow. I need to go find some really talented, cool people. And I need to pour into them as much as I can and help them get where they want to go so that they don't want to leave.
God, I love that. It's fantastic. Sarita, anything you've been dying to ask?
This is so fascinating. There's so much that comes to mind.
So
I think
much.
my number one question is, you've got some big goals, right? You're doubling your team essentially this coming year and then the year after. How does this scale? Like, is it just more conversations? Like, it's really, you've broken it down so well, but how do you do this at a level where you're at 100 agents in a couple of years doing
I think
the
you
same
have,
activity?
yeah, no, it's a really smart question, right? I think you have to have layers, because I don't know that I could personally do 4 a month. Like, I feel like I was kind of at my max when I was doing 2 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so with my other responsibilities. So you either have to have somebody take some of those responsibilities off of you, which I'm not willing to do, at least right now, or you have to have somebody willing to go recruit and help and set up some different talent funnels. So we're working on all of that. You know, I'm super blessed in that my brother Mark is my business partner. So you know, he and I both have a stake in the game, and he's the guy, he is my COO, right? Like, he's like, what needs to be done, I'm there. Like, Vija, you've talked to him. He's the dude that does 90% of the behind the scenes stuff. And then Amanda, who's our director of operations, has been a key hire for us. And I didn't see that coming, right? I didn't meet her until she was already working for us, because our old director of operations hired her as a marketing coordinator out of college. So she shows up, you know, 21 years old, and she's not who I would have been looking for, but man, our business wouldn't be where it is without her. And she's going to have a seat at the table at the end of this too. And she knows it. And so she's an owner in our, like, Adelina talks about this, right? Like, there's people who in your business, do they have an owner's mentality or do they have a renter's mentality? And she's definitely got an owner's mentality. Like, she takes things personally. She wants it to do better. She'll call me out, and there's very few people in our organization that'll call me out, right? She has no problem if she sees me not doing what I'm supposed to do, going, hey, we're down on appointments this week. What are you doing? Right. So when you have a lot of people like that, you have people already in your organization that are going, we want more, and they've shown you the opportunity to deliver results. Like, let's have those conversations. So like, we're getting ready to open, you know, we're getting ready to open another office, and Christina's going to run it. Like, that's going to be a huge opportunity for her to have an office in her. Right now she drives an hour and a half one way to our office 4 days a week.
Jeez.
Right. So, well, what's the next win-win? Well, the next win-win is let's build a team around her so that we can have office space there. She can recruit agents that aren't going to come to our office. Right. So it gives her an opportunity and gives us an opportunity to grow. So I see us with 3 or 4 offices down the road with 100 agents.
Jay, how would Christina describe you as a leader if she were here right now? If I asked her.
Man, that's not fair. You'd have to ask her.
I know, but just pretend.
I hope servant leadership. I hope that's how she would, or what she would say. I don't mind getting in the trenches, and feel like a lot of times that's my best asset. It's like, look, cool, let me show you how to do this. You know, that I think that's what it is.
That's what I wanted you to answer with, because I know that one of the things you've told me in private conversations is that when your agents are in the office, lead generating, you often will go in there and do your talent calls and your prospecting recruiting calls with them, so they see you, so they feel proximity, so that they hear your voice. You can do some spot coaching. And I just wanted to shout that out, that you're a player coach. You're what I would call a captain class leader from that book, Captain Class Leadership. Some of us think of that as one of the greatest leadership books ever. And you exemplify that. And I think that, you are hands-on involved in the most important function of your business, which you have defined as growth. And you haven't pawned it off to someone. You've got people helping you, but you're doing it. You're making the calls, you're doing the meetings. And again, you're leveraging off a lot of it, which is what you should do, but that will be the last thing you let go of, which is exactly how it should be as a good leader. So great job.
Thank you.
And this may be a fun place to end, but Vance asked the question about the comparison between real estate and basketball, noting your photos behind you. Can you just comment a little bit about some of the lessons learned from basketball and the significance of basketball for you?
So the significance of basketball for me, I played football and basketball and baseball in high school. I played basketball for like a quick minute in college until I cracked my kneecap, and on the third practice. So I never got to play. So it was always my dream, to play college ball, to play in the NBA, which is, if you know me, I'm 5'10" and have short arms. I can shoot, but I can't do much else. No, as I got into business, the two behind me are Michael Jordan and Kobe. And they have such a different mentality than even the elite basketball players as a whole. These two dudes are like, the story of Kobe, like we talk about having a Mamba mentality. I did a podcast with Kevin Kaufman a while back. We talked about having the Kobe mentality. So Kobe, when they were at the Olympics, right? The Olympics, this is not the NBA finals, the Olympics, which most of these guys were taking off. They were going through the motions and they knew they were going to win. And all the guys went out to the casino the night before the first practice or something like that, except Kobe. And so they come back at like 5 or 6 in the morning and they're, getting ready to go pass out and sleep a couple hours and wake up for practice. And Kobe was passing them on his way to the gym when they were coming in. So it was like 4:30 in the morning. Kobe's going to the gym and they're coming home from the casino. And one of them was asking Kobe, like, hey, dude, is that the way you normally operate? And Kobe goes, yeah, my first 10 years in the league, what I did was I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I would work out. And then I would have breakfast and then I would work out and then I would have lunch and then I would play a game and then I would eat dinner and then I would go work out again. And he said, if I could work out twice as many, like most NBA players work out in the morning and then play in the evening. So they're getting 2 workouts a day. Kobe said, if I could get 4 a day for 10 years and you're working out 2, every year I'm getting twice as many workouts as you. And that compound interest is really taking off. So by the end of 10 years, I'm 100 times better than you. I'm not 4 times better than you. And that's always stuck with me. So we talk about that. And I think that's one of the reasons we built our onboarding that way, right? You can't, Sarita, you said that no one can catch that. Like if you'll double down your first 2 to 3 weeks, the agents that you went through real estate school with are struggling and you're getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look up 10 years, Christina's been doing this 8.5 years. And I don't know a real estate agent that wouldn't trade her business. She works 30 hours a week and makes over $250,000 a year.
Here's the thing too, like when you look at and I know we have 2 more minutes, but when you look at your trajectory, there are so many of us who knew what we needed to do, who talked about it, who've kind of weathered the storm of 2023, and you just got into action. And now, 24 months in, sure, there's plenty of time for everybody here watching and listening to do massive things, right? But catching up is a different conversation. And you just, the best time to plant a tree was 2 years ago, in your case, 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And so, I would just end with that, hope this fires you all up. Don't watch this webinar in 2 years and not have moved the needle. Just get into action, make the mistakes you need to make, go for it. And hopefully you'll look back. And even if your trajectory doesn't look exactly like Jay's, and side note, he did 2.2 million GCI in 2022. He's going to do about 2.5 this year, Jay.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, pretty close this year. And then next year will be 3.5 to 4. And so get into action and do it. And that compounding that he talked about with Kobe, it 2-3 years from now, it puts you on a different level completely. So with that said, thank you, Jay White, for this last minute. I can't thank you enough for spending this time with us.
Real quick, the one other thing, Vija, is that everybody thinks that we've got our shit together, right? Everybody from the outside looking in, it looks really good, but it is messy from day one until today, right? And I think the one thing that I would encourage people is, like, don't wait until you think you have it done right, because then it's going to be easy. Just start working through it. And as Ben says, your problems change from this to that.
I love that so much. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, all of you guys
for having me,
for watching and listening. Yeah, really, really loved today. And we will see you not next Wednesday, because that is Thanksgiving. We will see you in 2 weeks, where we have a great panel. I've got a couple people confirmed. Very, very high level teams, 3 million plus teams. So it's going to be a great panel, and we're going to dive into some of these topics, some different ones. So thanks, everybody. If you want those Chick-fil-A questions, power playbooks at place.com. See you later. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.